Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, The Bling Ring. The infamous Bling Ring burglaries, where a bunch of high school kids used Google and went online and found celebrities who were out of town, then broke into their homes and stole their expensive clothes, money, watches, and all sorts of things, and then eventually were caught and sentenced to jail. And this is their true life story, presented to you by Sofia Coppola. This film is very empty, and it's about characters who are very empty and vapid, and it's as vapid and surface as the characters themselves. They love people who are famous for the sake of being famous, like Paris Hilton, like Audrina Patridge. This film kind of is just like these characters, is kind of just into the idea of it, but not really going any deeper behind it. Like, it likes the idea of these kids who went online and found through Google Street View and everything where these celebrities lived and how to break into their house, but it doesn't seem to get any theory behind it or really any sort of cohesive storytelling angle to it. The biggest problem with this film, I think, is this film was sold on Emma Watson. I mean, it was sold on the concept, but most people, when they see the trailer, it's like, oh, it's Emma Watson and this different thing. She's like a bad girl in this movie. And that her character, Alexis Nyers, is kind of the most notorious of the whole Bling Ring. She's the most famous, she's the most well known, and that character really isn't as important to the story as this film makes her out to be. Really what this film probably should have been about, and kind of tries to be about, is the two characters of Mark and Rebecca. Mark is coming to this school that's like the dropout high school, and he meets Rebecca and they become close friends. She's into breaking into houses and stealing stuff, and he wants to go with her because he wants to be friends with her. This interesting friendship dynamic, which you'd think would be kind of a nice narrative for an entire movie, but instead of just doing that and focusing kind of on that relationship, which is kind of like what the core of this movie should be, and if you were looking at it from a real storytelling angle, but this film doesn't really go that deep into it, and it keeps cutting to all the various girls, all the other girls that it's cutting to, especially like Emma Watson's character, don't really have much to do with the narrative, so it's a very messy narrative and messy thematically. It's not really sure what it's trying to say with any of this stuff. And the acting is, they're trying to be vapid people, and I think maybe they did too good of a job because they just come off as very vapid and bland. The actress who played Rebecca, Katie Chang, who is new, and you know, it's good for her, she got a good big break, but she just seemed to not be able to handle the character of Rebecca. There's scenes later where she needs to be kind of a little more devious, and she's not. She's just still playing it very vapid, and I think they were too concerned with being these kind of vapid, stupid people, and they weren't really thinking about them as people, really. They're thinking of them as caricatures. You can relate to all sorts of shitty people if you have a narrative that's written well enough and you have acting that's good enough. And since this film had neither, I like the kid who played Mark, Gisriel, I think his name is. I actually think he has a nice voice. He should do some cartoons or something. But mostly Emma Watson's kind of the real breakout actress of this. They focus too much on her character, and she's not really someone who's as concentrated with the Bling Ring as Mark and Rebecca were. That kind of took away from it, and they're not really saying anything with their character. I've read some stuff and they're saying, oh, well, she is like the breakout star, that she becomes a celebrity kind of through this, and it's like, well, that's true, but that didn't seem to be clear enough. Is she making fun of them? Is she making like a comedy? Is this supposed to be funny? It is funny in parts, but then she's doing her like whole Sofia Coppola existential thing. She seemed a little lost doing a topic like this. It felt like almost like she couldn't relate to these characters, so she kind of tried to make this kind of in her wheelhouse but also escaping from it, and it's such an artistic mess of a movie. This was the last film shot by Harry Savides. He also shot films like Zodiac, American Gangster. He was a great DP, and he died in 2012, but he shot some of this film. I don't know which shots are his and what shots aren't. The rest of the film was shot by Christopher Blauvelt, who shot Meek's Cutoff. The cinematography is not amazing or anything. There is one cool shot, and it feels very Harry Savides, and I think it's Harry Savides. The shot of both Mark and Rebecca breaking into Audrina Patridge's house and it's just a shot of the house as a whole, like for the cameras from a distance. The house has a lot of windows. It's like more windows than concrete on it, and you can see them going through the house and turning lights on and stealing stuff, and then see them entering and then coming out, and it's all done in one shot. And that was a really cool shot. One of the problems with how they shot the break-in scenes is they kind of didn't feel that much different from one another, but then that was the only one that felt different. That's actually the one I remember the most because it was so different and felt kind of cold and cool. I just feel like there wasn't really much of a director's vision, enough of an auteur through it. I can tell she directed it, but it's just like there's not really a strong directorial voice throughout it. It just didn't seem to play off of any certain perspective. It was just like, look at these airheads, and it's like, okay, they're vapid, but the way they're portraying it is very vapid because there's nothing for it to stand behind. So it's like a vapid movie about vapid people. So if you have seen The Bling Ring and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.